Hi there, my name is Tirsi Engelhardt, and I want to welcome you to the second episode in January of the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Joyce. So, welcome back. For those of you who have been listening in, you know I had kind of a late start to the new year. I would say that I'm now about 80%. So, getting there, which feels great. And I want to welcome you all, wherever you are in the beginning of this year, whatever's going on for you, however much success you've had at being the best version of you, or whatever. Welcome. Grateful to have you. Reminder that I don't have your answers. That's not what we're here for. But I do have tidbits I can share from my soon 40 years of recovering from living an addictive lifestyle for 20 years, struggling with healing from abuse as a teen, and then an eating disorder from 16 to 36 years old. So I'm so grateful to be here. And I learned from other people's stories. And when the COVID era happened, I started doing this podcast as a way to continue to stay connected to people because we just weren't getting together face to face like we once did. And then I continued it. So grateful to have you. Whether this is your first time, I think it's 300th and something time, wherever you are on that continuum, I'm grateful for you. So let's see here. I don't know if I told you guys that I started losing my eyesight in my left eye. And I actually didn't know I was losing it because it happened at the same time that I finally surrendered to my progressive lenses. I know I shared that journey with you. So I thought I just had a bad prescription and that I didn't like glasses and they weren't working well for me. Well, as it turned out, they had been tracking dry macular degeneration for years and it had suddenly gone to wet, which then you lose some of your central vision. Anyway, long story short, they sent me to a specialist in Coeur d'Alene and they give you injections. And yesterday I had my second one. My first one was miserable. My second one was way better. But what was interesting about that, I wasn't actually even planning on sharing this, but what was interesting about that was I hadn't experienced any improvement. But when I went there, the surgeon was very excited because in the pictures that they took, he saw lots of improvement. So that just reminded me that sometimes there's improvement happening, but you and I don't necessarily experience it right away. In fact, I think because I had finally accepted that this was going on and that it wasn't my prescription, I began to see how weak that I really was as opposed to seeing the improvement that was going on because that's the lens I was looking through. So remember, the lens we look through distorts what we see. And so coming out yesterday with a much better experience, I now feel optimistic about it. But I didn't before. But all that changed was I got some information that said there is improvement happening, even though I'm not experiencing it. And for those of you who struggle with addiction or compulsion or attention deficit or whatever you might be dealing with, I want you to consider that in all likelihood, you're advancing, you're doing better, you're getting better, things are improving, but you might not experience it right away. Okay. So that's a little note of encouragement. Okay. So this particular episode is how do you know when something's complete? Well, mostly we know when it's not. And as I said in the description, it's like that event is on repeat and it seems to come into our consciousness even when we're not thinking about it. And even when we try to push it away, there it is. And it comes up again and again. And maybe it even enters your dream state. Well, there's things in my life. And really the core thing for me is there are people who knew me during my addictive years. And I wish they knew me now. That's a reoccurring thing. It's like, oh, I wish they knew who I really am. not who I was as the addict. But that may or may not ever happen. And ultimately, it's something that is finally complete for me. And how I know it's complete is it comes up, but I don't get triggered by it anymore. There isn't this wave of sadness or of regret or if only or I wish or all the things that come or even feeling slighted because they're stuck with that particular view of me, which distorts how they see me. And for whatever reason, they may or may not have any interest whatsoever in getting to know me as who I am now. So that's how you know. It's like, in the early years of recovery, I remember dealing with, an alcoholic doesn't have to go back and hang out in a bar to see how their recovery is going. But somebody who struggles with food addiction does have to continue and learn how to eat healthy and not get tripped up by the same patterns or temptations or whatever it might be that hooked them, that would take them out of their present moment and usurp their attention. So that's one of the interesting things about food addiction is you can't just ignore it. You can't just stay away from it. You can't just clean out all the food in your house. No, you actually have to learn how to build a new relationship, which is maybe that's a good thing because it's another level of recovery. And so lately I've had this experience of this thing that kind of looks like if only someone who knew me then knew me now, that sort of sadness and loss, feeling maybe misunderstood, misseen, misjudged, misknown, whatever that is, it doesn't trip me up anymore. And that feels so good. So that those people or the person, they can come into my consciousness and it doesn't take me out of the present moment anymore. It doesn't rip me off of my life force, my ability to be here right now in this life, fully being and expressing as who I am and who I believe I was created to be. And that's a victory. And so I want to encourage you this week. If there are those reoccurring themes, those relationships or situations or circumstances, whatever, that show up on repeat in your life, keep doing your work. I suspect you're probably doing better than you think you are. Keep doing your work because there will come a time when those situations, people, or circumstances may rise in your consciousness uninvited, and you will no longer be tripped up by them because, as we say, it'll be complete. And I wish that for you. So keep working on that. You're further along than you think you are. And I'll be here next week waiting to see you then. Have a beautiful week. And congratulations on how far you've come. You are an amazing human being.